Immunoporosis. Have you ever heard of it? I'd be willing to put a lot of money that you probably haven't, which is unfortunate because it's the leading model in the research behind what is driving osteoporosis. Now, the research in the last 10 or 15 years has moved so far past the idea that it's like a calcium deficiency that's causing osteoporosis. It's not even funny. But unfortunately, most people in the healthcare field and certainly in the general population have never heard of this term called immunoporosis. So let's spend the next few minutes talking about what the latest research says about osteoporosis. Now, it's important to differentiate something here. Osteoporosis means a weakening of the bones due to low bone density, which can increase your risk of fractures, as opposed to osteomalacia, which is a softening of bones, usually due to a nutrient deficiency like vitamin D deficiency typically, or a phosphorus dysregulation. So it's become clear over the last 10 years or so that the major driver behind osteoporosis is not a lack of calcium, but rather dysregulation of the immune system. And that's why the term immunoporosis comes into existence. In order to understand, we need to take a look at these cells called macrophages. You may have heard the terms autophagy or mitophagy, or about these cells called macrophages. Now, the suffix of each of those words are derived from the Greek word phagein, which means to eat, which you might think is pretty weird of me to mention that, but that means the word macrophages literally means big eater, and so that gives me an opportunity to animate this big Pac-Man to show that a macrophage is a big eater. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity if I hadn't explained the Greek word to begin with. Now, when it comes to bone health, there's always a turnover of bones where you have cells called osteoblasts that are making new bone and osteoclasts that are breaking down bone. And if they're balanced, then you maintain your bone density. But if there's too many osteoclasts that are breaking down bone compared to osteoblasts, then you get reduced bone density. Now, osteoclasts, the ones that break down bone, are derived from macrophages, and therefore they're directly linked to the immune system. So the macrophages are part of the immune system, right? They're the big eaters for the immune system. They're the big phagocytes is what we call them. So macrophages are always maturing and differentiating into different cells. So what is the trigger that makes a macrophage differentiate into an osteoclast? Well, it's this receptor that's on the outside of the macrophages called receptor-activated nuclear factor kappa beta, or RANK. RANK is stimulated by this protein called receptor-activated nuclear factor kappa beta ligand. And what stimulates that protein to be made? Pretty simple, inflammation. So zooming out to the 30,000-foot view, inflammation causes rank L to be stimulated. Rank L stimulates the rank receptor on the macrophage, which makes it turn into an osteoclast. And then more osteoclasts are breaking down bone, hence the term immunoporosis. This is exactly why most pharmaceuticals aimed at treating osteoporosis are really targeting the immune system, which is actually relevant information that most people on these drugs might want to know about. So why is osteoporosis so prevalent in postmenopausal women? Again, it's fairly complicated, but in the interest of trying to be brief, estrogen is a very potent anti-inflammatory hormone. So when estrogen is gone, it's no longer keeping inflammation in check. Heightened inflammation causes osteoclasts to be proliferated, and they start winning the battle over the osteoblasts. But obviously, it's not just about inflammation, right? Nutrients like calcium and phosphorus and vitamin D and whatnot, they do play a role. But unfortunately, the role of protein is vastly underestimated in dietary changes for people with osteoporosis. When you think of the composition of bone, most people think of calcium. But bones are actually mostly made of collagen. And what's collagen made of? Protein. And so the RDA, which is the base minimum amount that anybody should be having, the RDA for protein is 0.34 grams of protein for every pound of body weight that you have. Now, again, the RDA is the base minimum amount that you should have. So the RDA for protein intake is 0.34 grams per pound of body weight, and research shows that 46% of people don't even meet the very low bar of 0.34 grams per pound of body weight for protein intake. And when it comes to protein intake, the research shows it significantly increases bone density with protein intakes closer to 0.55 grams per pound of body weight. And many studies are now recommending elderly people consume around 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Now, your best sources of protein definitely come from animal products, which is why so many studies show much higher levels of osteoporosis in vegans and vegetarians, where protein intake is often difficult. Now, if you have trouble tracking the amount of protein that you're eating in a day, there's a myriad of different apps out there that will help you track your macronutrients. Macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates, right? There's so many apps out there that are free that you can just track how much of those macronutrients you're having per day, so it can give you an estimate of what you need to do to adjust your diet. And last but not least, you need to give your body encouragement to want to make bone, right? That comes in the form of exercise, and the exercises that have been shown conclusively to be the best forms of exercise to stimulate bone growth is running and weightlifting. So as you can see, osteoporosis does not have a singular cause of a calcium deficiency or a nutrient deficiency. It's a web of different variables, and having a univariate answer to a multivariate problem is probably not going to serve you very well. When it comes to inflammation, that's where the magic comes in as far as finding out what is driving the inflammation of the body. Maybe it's a gluten intolerance, maybe it's a gut infection, maybe you have an underlying autoimmune condition that's driving inflammation, maybe it's stress. These are the things that need to be investigated if we really want to take care of osteoporosis properly. Now, I know this is probably new information to a lot of you, so I welcome any questions or comments in the section below the video. And as always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Take care.